Hey everyone, hope everybody's doing well. Real quick, I got the 550xp on the workbench. Getting ready to clean it up because I'm going to take it to the spa and check out the firmware, see if it needs to be updated, and if it does, go ahead and get that done. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, hope everybody's doing well. It's Jason with Backyard Firewood. If you're new to the channel, I'm just a hobby firewood cutter, firewood seller. If you're a return visitor, I appreciate the support as always. I took my 550xp mk2 to the dealer today. I wanted to check to see if there was an available firmware update for the Autotune software. So real quick, if you're not familiar with the Autotune saws or the M-tronic saws from Steel, you can't adjust these carbs manually. These are all adjusted via computer control. So for backstory on this one, I've had this saw for a couple years. Ever since new, it's been kind of a bear to start cold. Always started great warm, but cold was a different story. And then flashback to the summer, we had some pretty hot weather here in Michigan. It was about 90, 95 degrees. I was out cutting a few days, and I saw kept vapor locking on me. And I swear at least once or twice you could see the fuel actually blowing through the sight window on the fuel tank. I had a subscriber comment that I should consider doing a muffler mod on this saw because he'd seen several 550s really get damaged due to overheating. And hey man, I'm never adverse to modding the saw, but before I did that, I wanted to take it to my dealer and have it checked out to see if it needed a firmware update for the Autotune software. If you've never done this before, it's actually a pretty easy process. My dealer does it for me for free, and it takes about 10 minutes. One of the things that your dealer is going to need is your ignition module article number, which is stamped on the ignition module. Also, real quick, I forgot to mention in the beginning, stick to the end of the video and I'll post up some interesting firewood related YouTube content. So the next thing they do is they just unplug the harness that routes to your carburetor, and they plug that into a module that the computer uses to interface with the microcontroller on your saw. After all that, the computer reads the current firmware revision on your saw, and then there's some other information that it'll display as well. First thing we have is the current firmware revision that's in the saw. For my particular saw, the current version of firmware was 4.1.2. The next thing firmware related that we see is the firmware revision that's available for this particular saw. In this case, it was 4.1.6. Unfortunately, I don't know the revision process for Husqvarna. I used to write software, and so typically when you make revisions you'll do it in a sequential order. However, for all I know, this made a jump from 4.1.2 to 4.1.6, or other revisions applied to saws with different ignition modules. After all that, if you're comfortable, you can go ahead and have your dealer update your firmware. You'll get a little progress bar and then a warning that tells you don't do anything stupid while it's doing its thing. There's other information you can get. You can get operating history. You can do an auto test on the saw. You'll cycle the fuel solenoid valve, things like that. It'll check the temperature sensor on it to make sure that it's reading the right temperature. It's actually a pretty neat process. Right out of the gate, first thing I noticed is that the saw started cold a lot easier. Before it was just, like I said, it was a bear. Now it's 2-3 pulls and it fires up. I still plan on doing a muffler mod on the saw, but I'm going to wait till summertime. I want to run this pre-muffler mod, post firmware update when it's hot to see if the firmware changes make a difference or not. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't know what Husqvarna's engineers did, between my original firmware and the new firmware, but obviously they changed things for a reason, so only time will tell. Until next time, thanks for watching. I think shortly in another video here, I'm going to be going over the CBN wheel I just put on my Oregon grinder, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.